This is Fabulously Normal. Real people, real stories. The flip side to 40 with Tara.
Welcome to Fabulously Normal. I'm here with Simon Kerle and we're going to just showcase a fabulous life after 40. I've got my questions ready. He has not read any of them. But before we start, I would like us to just sort of snapshot. Let's go from 17 in the basketball world. And when did you retire? Yeah.
35. So I finished in 2005.
Yeah.
Started 17, 18, went to America for a couple of years.
Yep.
Went to college over there.
Yep.
And then came back and at the age of 20, started a full-on, full-on professional career. It was good.
And then finished at 35. That's massive. That's
35.
That's a big career as a professional athlete.
Yeah. You know what? I still had another couple of years on my contract, but I'd been injured 3 out of the last 4 years.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And you have to kind of make a decision. Do I want to continue towards the end or do you want to get on with life?
Yeah.
And I just got on with life and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Switched skins.
Yeah.
So now tell us about what you do in your life.
Well, after basketball, I think after any athlete finishes this sport, it's quite challenging because you've been in a routine for nearly 20 years. It's okay. You get 2 months off in the off season, then you start training. I always trained through the off season. I probably took 2 weeks off, and then I got straight back into 4 or 5 hours a day. Mm-hmm. But then when you finish, you're a little bit lost because you don't have the club, you don't have the teammates, you don't have what I'm showing up for every day. And every athlete, or whether you're an actor or whatever it is, model, it doesn't matter what it is. It's like, what do I do now to fill my time?
Yeah. Your identity is so wrapped up in that sport. Yeah. And
I was fortunate enough to, at the time, I had my best mate of 30 years. I went into some business things with him.
Yeah.
And it ended up being not so good, when you trust your friends 30 years. They
is that the whole working with mates, working with family, working with friends?
People change, and it was really disappointing. It wasn't just me. It was me and about 7 other of his friends that was like. Anyway, that's not what the conversation is about. But we were all hurt by what had happened. And then through that, and it was a stressful time because we had commercial property developments, we had Eagle Boy pizza stores, we had a bar restaurant in Melbourne.
Wow.
And those things sound good, but GFC came, boom. Some things we found out what was going on. It was like, and then it was
stressful. That sounds stressful.
Very, and I think I'd never done yoga.
Yep.
And there's what's it called? The Village News in New Farm's a little magazine.
Yeah.
And I still remember Crystal Hansen, I think that's her last name.
Yeah.
She did this interview.
Yep.
Like, what are you up to now? And then I'd had a skip bin company called Trailer Trash Mobile Skip Bins. I'd gotten rid of most of my whatever investments I had because they were all debt ridden and with the GFC.
Yeah.
And a really good friend of mine, Russell McCart, who developed pretty much all of Tenerife back in the late 90s. Mm-hmm. I said, what do I do? Because I didn't know what to do. I was snowed under with debt.
Yeah.
He goes, just get rid of everything, chop it all off. I said, he goes, just cut it off, cut the arm off. So I did. I got rid of it, and I had one more commercial property just to get rid of that was costing me a fortune. Mm-hmm. Like, they sound good when you say, I had this, and this.
Of course.
But it was horrific.
Yeah.
It was beyond horrific. And she said, what's next for you? Mm. And I go, I've got one more commercial property just to get rid of. So I'm debt free. And we're in New Farm Park, the powerhouse there. I said, see that tree over there? Yeah. I'm going to lay down under that tree. I've been looking at it for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to look at the sky.
Yeah.
And I go, and then I'm thinking about doing yoga. And she goes, you should. You'll love it. And I was like, really? She goes, where are you going to go? I said, it's New Farm Power Yoga. It's not there anymore. So I said, cool. So I went in.
Yeah.
And after I sold the last building, and there was a girl next to me, and she said, first time. That's how ridiculous I look. It was like I'm going into the electric chair. And that's what you do, you think everyone's looking at you, no one cares.
No
one cares. No one cares how bad you are.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, she goes, what do you think? I go, I just didn't really connect with the teacher. I don't think yoga's for me. Oh. And she said, come back tomorrow, do this other class. You'll like him. Because she knew I like strong classes. And she was right. Boom. loved it. Did yoga twice a day for a year.
Wow.
Did my teacher training, loved it. My teacher, who I did yoga with, said, "Do you think you'll ever teach?" I go, "Don't be ridiculous. Who wants to be a yoga teacher?" Couldn't think of anything more ridiculous. Tammy, leave me alone. Then I went to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Halfway through the class, the teacher, who to this day is one of my friends, Marsha, halfway through the class, I've got to be a yoga teacher. Boom, went home, set it up, got that going. And then I hadn't finished my training though. I still had 6 months to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just started teaching everywhere in Brisbane without a certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And you just get confidence that way the more you do something, no matter
Yeah,
how bad you are at
Yep.
it.
Practice, practice, practice.
And that's why in our training we teach a lot, so it doesn't matter.
Yep.
You know, you just got to get good at it. And then my teacher would say, "Do you think you'll ever own a studio?" I said, "I am never owning a yoga studio. Do not be ridiculous. Are you crazy?"
Yeah.
And then I did.
Yeah.
And then, you know, then the last thing she said, "Do you ever think you'll do yoga teacher training?" Okay, Tammy, that's way too much work.
Yeah.
And now it's one of the most enjoyable things I've ever done, because you're taking on people that might be going through tough times, they've got no confidence, low
Yep.
self-esteem. You're sharing that journey with them. And the other thing she said with the studio, like, I never understood the joy that it brings me, like the community that we
The
have.
teacher joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just
yeah.
being around just good people. Like,
Yep.
we're a studio, no one thinks they're better than anybody. No one cares that you're wearing the latest leggings or the latest crop. No one cares. No one
Yeah.
cares if you can do a handstand.
It's a level playing field. Come in and practice.
Practice.
Yeah.
Everyone says hi. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, the community is great. So I never understood the power of getting involved. And sometimes I lose sight of how important that is, you know, because you get caught up with, and then something in life makes you sit back and you're like, "Oh my God, look how fortunate I am to have all these people."
Totally.
So, and then, you know, and then from that,
So exciting.
yeah, and then from that, I think I was telling you that, you know, I have another business, Yoga Bears Kids Yoga, and
Yeah.
that's where we put kids yoga teachers in childcare centres.
Yep.
And we're in 100 centres around Australia. So it's like all these, if you had said to me
And
4 years
again,
ago,
yeah.
what, were you kids yoga? I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's crazy."
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, so it's just, so it's bought, I think yoga's bought me in a 10-year period, like nearly just as much as basketball bought me in 20 years. Or 20 years as a
Yeah.
professional,
Yep.
but playing it since I was the age of 4.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the basketball space of your life too is those formative years in your 20s as
Yeah,
well.
young
you know,
boy, for
yeah,
sure.
and that's a different person. It's a different body. It's a different mind. Like, and that, like, for anybody. I mean, that's when we met in our 20s,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
Well, I just moved
different
up from
people.
Melbourne. And,
Yeah.
You knew Penny, my sister.
Yes.
But I think I tell people that, like, how I was back then, I was a gorilla mentally. You know, I was
Do you mean like primal-ish or
just stupid.
yeah?
You know?
Gorilla sounds stupid.
But no, you know what I mean. Just the gorilla mentality. It's just you know, not open to things. It was just a silly mentality, and you learn as you go along, and situations in life, as
Yep.
we all know, happen. And,
Yep.
and you look and say, okay, I'm not really happy with what's going on. What can I do to be better?
Yeah.
And listen, am I perfect? Of course not. You make mistakes all the time. But the one
Yeah.
thing now is when I do make mistakes, and if it's brought up, I can recognize it. And I go, okay, thank you. Let me do that. I might
You
not.
can own it.
You can own it,
Yeah.
and you can change it, and
Yeah.
you can grow to be a better person. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'll get it the first time, but maybe the second, third time.
Yeah.
But I would never have been aware of that back then. Like,
But there's an intuitive space too. Like, I think the fact that you said, I'm going to go and lie under a tree.
yeah,
You know, I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause to reflect and then move forward because I don't know what I want yet.
Yeah.
But if you stop and take a little moment to breathe, often it's there, right? It's there somewhere. It will be inside you.
Yeah.
So it's so exciting that I just think such a professional, strong athlete, and now a flip side. I mean, I don't know, like basketball professional, yoga professional.
Yeah.
They're not, like, that wouldn't be a common pathway for athletes to take. And then now, like, a studio and, like you said, expanding your business into children and doing that advocacy, I think is incredible. And I am going to ask you to show me that strength in a minute. But I want to, so I'm really proud of you, Simon. Like, I know we've been friends for a long time, and I have watched this journey, you know, from afar as well. And I think it's incredible what you're doing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And see, I wouldn't have even been able to appreciate that compliment. Normally I would brush that off. You know, when people give you words now, it's just like, because,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's appreciative.
You're welcome.
You know, it's like one of the funny stories. I used to have 2 studios and one at Red Hill, and I don't know if you know Sam Squire. She's works for Channel 9. She's from Sydney. She flew to Melbourne, flew up to Brisbane and worked. Her and her husband Ben, and they came to a class. Now I didn't know who Sam was, and then they came back the following week, and I chatted to them after the class, and they go, "We thought it was you." I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "We left, and we go." Was that Simon Kerle who used to play basketball?
Looks like that guy. Do you remember?
Who used to be a maniac. And she goes...
Who had mad hair.
Mad hair. And she called the Channel 9 sports desk and said this, "You will never believe who's teaching yoga in Brisbane."
Yeah.
She said Simon Kerle, and they all laughed. And I go, "Why?"
Oh.
She goes, "Do you remember how you were as a player?"
Yeah.
And I forget, right, because it's been so long. I don't really bring it up. Every now and then, you know, to people who I'm, you know, some people I want to share it with because it's a...
Yeah, it was part of your story.
Yeah, and it's been suppressed for so long. I've never had people to share it with.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I never really thought about it that way. She goes, you were like a maniac.
Yeah,
you know, but
a beast.
In a good way. So it's just funny that whole... And, you know, the majority of the students in here, I would say 95%, do not even know I played basketball.
Wow. We should just roll a basketball in one day.
Oh, you don't want that would be horrible. I'd be like, really? You play professionally? He doesn't look like he can play professionally.
But I think it's beautiful. I think that you can acknowledge that, and that you were so powerful on the court, and you were so strong, and you had such success. But the mental game may have needed a bit of tweaking.
It definitely.
And then flip side to yoga. I mean, I do yoga. I love yoga. Yeah. Probably not at the same level, just going to put it out there.
But you know what, that's the crazy thing, right? Yoga is not about, it doesn't matter your level's my level, their level. It's like you find your space on the mat and you just do. And we tell everybody in here, listen, whenever you want to rest, rest.
Yeah.
If we tell you to do something you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the person next to you.
No.
They may be worked in the Cirque du Soleil for 10 years, and they're doing things you're like, and they might say, you might talk to them before class, and they say, oh, how long are you doing yoga? Oh, it's my first yoga class.
Yeah.
And you watch this professional acrobat.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, that's his first day. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of accepting and just not judging where you're at.
Yeah, and that's beautiful.
And we just want people to have fun. Really.
Yeah, fun, and I love the fact that you're still using your body in that powerful and strong way, but in a completely different way. And that, to me, that's very inspiring.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you some questions now, okay?
Yes.
Well, I don't need to ask you about challenging the body because you already do that. All right, how do you use your imagination? This doesn't have to be the professional story, just in life.
See, I always think my imagination. I always... Well, for me, meditation helps a lot. When I do work a lot, and so a lot of the time I get into that wheel that we ride, like a mouse, and just go over and over. And so I don't think I'm very creative, but I do like, if I'm in a relationship, I like being romantic and giving stuff that I don't normally give.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a big thing.
Yeah, great. So that's imaginative and creative in developing a relationship.
Yeah, things like that.
Nurturing it,
which is really, because it's something that I've never really taken to. So, you know, when you work on things and you get to that point. But I think too, just trying
it's a nice stretch.
Yeah. Well, and I like to just make this experience for the students in the studio as best that they can have.
Yeah.
Like I want people to come in and walk out and think, oh, whatever tragedy or tough life they're having at the moment, they can come here for an hour and 20, they leave, and just for that 1 hour, maybe they just don't think about it. Oh. You know, just a really nice experience.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. Okay, what is love over 40?
Listen, it's I say this all the time, it's very, very hard to find the right person. You know what I mean? And it's really difficult. I think now, I had never been on a dating app ever in my life. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I like the natural interaction of meeting somebody.
Yeah.
I like the feel that you might get rejected. I mean, I don't like the feel, but you know, it's you know what I
The
mean?
human bit.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, cool. How do you, it's like, that's just how it's been done, like when we were younger.
Yeah.
But then when you work so much, I had a couple of friends like, you need to go on a dating app, you need to go. I'm like, no, that's not me, it's not for me. Like, but that's all you do is work. You don't even leave the house. It's like,
Those friends.
you know. and so I did, and I was on it for like 2 months, and I met a really good person. It didn't work out, but you know, a really good person. But I think now with social media, all these apps, I think people are looking for or expecting perfection, and if they don't get it, it's like, oh, boom, gone. If you're a woman, right? So if you're a woman that is semi-attractive, so you're gonna just get guys all the time, boom, boom, boom. So if you go on a date with someone that doesn't work, next one, or you know, that's on the app. On the social media, it's like, okay, well, I can do that. It doesn't allow for people to not be perfect or get to know the person. Take longer to get to know the person.
Have some organic growth and be a bit patient.
Be patient, you know, because back 20 years ago, if somebody you saw,
when there was no phones,
no mobiles, you know what I mean?
No dating apps,
none of those things. It's just people. It was just a little bit slower. Okay, whereas now there's so many options. It's just like, oh yeah, well, you know, I didn't like the way that you put your drink down on the. You didn't put it on the coaster. You're not for me.
Didn't put it on the coaster.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Or
ouch.
You know.
No, I hear
you. sneezed and there was no. Gesundheit.
Yeah.
Or Seinfeld, just so good looking. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just. I don't know.
Social cues.
Like, I'm not a big fan of social media. I need it for. We were talking about it before. I need it for the business.
Yeah.
But I don't look on it. I don't. You know, there's just certain things I can't stand it.
Yeah, but you're going to watch this, right?
Definitely watch this, and I'll share it with people because, like, there's different things.
It's a positive space.
Yeah. But for me, it's just, and I guess if you speak to psychologists, they must have some. They must just look at the situation, and like, let's forget about us, right? Because we're over 40. But what about kids growing up 12, 13, 14 on mobile phones? And
I know.
Imagine like you've whatever it is. I didn't even know what OnlyFans was until like 3 months ago, 4 months ago. I was like, what was that? When someone tells you, it's like, can you imagine being in a situation and you're seeing a parent do all that type of stuff? Like, also your parent going on date after date after date. I mean, and then so they got on the Snapchat. I don't know what Snapchat is, but you know, I know of it, but I've never used it. Like, all these things for these kids at that age.
Yeah.
As a girl, you've got to look a certain way. You've got to do this. Like, that's starting from this age.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even imagine. I'm sure young boys are trying to entice young girls to send like naked photos.
Boobs.
Do you know what I mean? So imagine you're 13, 14. Like, I lived in Melbourne at 12, 13, 14. We came up to Brisbane then. And I remember we would get excited if someone had ripped out a page of Playboy and left it in the park on one of those things that spin around really quickly, right? We're like, oh my God.
Free boobs.
Now you get your phone and there's so many
porn.
So many sites.
I know.
So there's so many extra pressures for society, and you know, so I don't have kids, so I couldn't even imagine what it's like trying to navigate through that.
I think navigating it is challenging, and everyone's doing the best they can, and I'm a bit like you, I'm old school, and maybe that's part of the over 40 demographic, the Gen X. Like, we grew up with so much freedom and no technology. So we had to really look inside ourselves to make decisions and connections and friendships and deal with rejection. And there wasn't a map of like what life should look like or what people should look like. You know, your first boobs were torn out and thrown in the park kind of thing. You know? And you're like, okay, or your mum's, or, you know, you accidentally see your friend's mum's boobs.
Well, can you go around Jimmy's house? Why? You always going to go to Jimmy's house? No reason.
Yeah. Saturday afternoon, she sunbakes.
You know, it's like, it's just crazy what that is setting up.
Oh, I hear you, dude.
Can you imagine being 14, just having access to all the porn sites? By the time they get to being in a proper relationship, their whole entire
I feel it's scary for boys.
Concept is like they're watching what's been happening.
Yeah.
And then listen, that. So whatever they have with that partner is not normal for them, because like, well, I've been watching these professionals do it. Yeah, what's reality?
Yeah.
So I couldn't even imagine how you navigate through that.
I have one kind of aspect. I mean, my daughter's nearly 13, and I say to her that no social media, because I want you to live life.
Yep.
I don't want you to look at how somebody else is living their life and think that's the roadmap.
Yep.
I want you to make your own choices and mistakes and
Yeah.
failings, and then you got something to talk about.
Yep.
You know, if you're going off and doing a life that somebody else has led,
Yeah.
then you're using their life stories. You know, where's your story? So
But is it really their
that's
life
kinda-
story, right? Because that's just what
No,
they want us to
manufactured.
see. Do you know what I mean? They may be suicidal every day.
Yeah,
Like how many,
yeah.
they may have
And what's
serious depression.
presenting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They may
I
be
hear
broke
you.
and they're just
Yeah.
presenting it, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, I need to be like that person. It's like, that's not reality. Like,
Well, we've worked in profiled positions,
Yep.
you know, me in television and you
Yeah,
in
yeah.
your sports.
Yep.
And we know that there is a space
For
where there is
sure.
a performance space. And, you know, I think if that becomes your daily life, like for me, there was always separation.
Yep.
I was like, even though I was Tara on Y or I was Tara on CBBS or
Yep.
Tara on Ministry, there was still the performer of Tara,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I could separate, you
Yeah.
know, and now it's different to mum Tara and different to school
yeah, yeah.
teacher Tara,
Yep.
you know. So I think that if that becomes your entire life, where there is no point of separation,
Yeah.
I feel that's a little bit scary.
yeah,
you
for
know?
sure, definitely.
Okay. How do you show your mates that you love and care about them?
Listen. When I finished basketball, I worked with a lady named Maureen who changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never ever told my mum I loved her.
Oh,
35, had never told her that. Right.
bless.
Worked with Maureen for a year,
yeah.
and then once we had breakthrough, you like,
Yeah,
please,
yeah.
when's this breakthrough going to happen? And then it happened.
And then it's mega.
Yeah. I went and
yeah.
sat down with Mum, told her things that she'd never even known about me for the last 20 years. Apologised for being a bad son. Told her I loved, and from that day on, that was back in 2005, every time I talk to her, every time I see her, I hug her, I tell her I love her, and every time I say I love you, she chuckles. Chuckles. Like it's so... And so then even with my
It's so
friends...
sweet. It's
it was
beautiful.
unreal. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's...
yeah,
And then my brother who'd lived in Japan for 10 years, he came around, like we had a dinner for him, and I came and gave her a kiss and said, I love you, Mum. He looked at my sister and he goes, what's going on here? Because he hadn't seen me for 10 years, so he just knew that person.
And you're like, hang on a minute, I shed a skin.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's really...
Yeah.
And then from then, just even with my male friends now,
Yeah.
we text, love you, mate. When I see,
Great.
we'll hug, we'll kiss
Yeah.
on the cheek, love
Yeah.
you, thank you. Like it's
Hold.
just hold.
Yeah.
But just telling one another that we love each other and
Yeah.
we don't feel bad about it. It's
No,
just like, man,
nothing weird about it.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So,
Okay. What has made you laugh recently?
oh man, yes. Maybe I should have looked at these questions.
Do you want to know what makes me laugh recently?
that?
I'll just tell you.
Yeah.
It seriously makes me laugh. Birds with arms.
Birds with arms.
Yep,
What
I know.
birds have arms?
Yep, none. That's what makes it so funny, right? So I've come across, it started a year ago, someone sent me a little clip of like, they've drawn on arms to birds and made them in real life situations, and I've just lost it. Like now I can't, it just, if I'm ever feeling a little bit down, I just Google birds with arms. And then all of a sudden I'm cracking up laughing,
Yep.
and that's my laugh fix at the moment. Yeah.
What do? I go back to old school Seinfeld.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
just
yeah.
a simple,
Yeah.
simple
I
ride,
watched
you know.
Seinfeld the other day.
Um,
That was good.
But I mean, I couldn't give you a
Elaine's dancing.
specific thing. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I can't. There's nothing specific, but I do laugh.
Yeah, good.
Every now and then.
Okay. What have you said yes to recently?
What have I said yes to?
Like maybe something that's a little bit of a like, oh, I don't want to, but then you're like, no, I'm gonna.
I had a period, not recently, but 4 or 5 years ago, where I always used to say no. And then an email came into my thing for a yoga retreat in Bali.
Yeah, nice.
And I'd made a decision 2 weeks earlier to say yes to things I would say no to.
Yay!
And I said yes to it, booked it, boom. And then in the studio, I had a good mate of mine, Jasper, he was Danish. He's been here for a little while. He's back in Denmark now. And I told him, he goes, "Can I come?" I'm like, "Yeah, mate, no worries."
Yeah.
So that doing things like that, which is very hard for me,
Yeah.
I don't take holidays. I don't do things like that.
It's the stretch.
But I definitely do need things like that. And, even for Valentine's Day, I've never been a big Valentine's Day person, but I shared a special Valentine's Day.
Yay!
Because it was just things I don't do, but it meant a lot to my partner at the time.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how it makes me feel, but doing that for her because it meant a lot to her.
Yep, the gift of giving.
That's what it was all about.
Yeah, beautiful.
So, yeah.
Okay. I think because you've had such an interesting professional career, what advice would you give your 30-year-old self from your current day
From
self?
now?
Yeah, what would be a pearl of wisdom that you would say to yourself?
I should have taken life a little less serious.
Yep.
I would definitely encourage myself to meditate daily. I just think, listen...
Lighten up, Simon.
Yeah.
Lighten up.
And that's the thing, though, like, as far as meditation goes, it's one of the greatest free gifts that we have. And I think the one thing that people think of meditation is they think gurus, cross-legged, sitting in a cave, levitating for months.
Yeah, wow.
And it's humanly impossible, right? That's just not... We don't live those lives.
Or those ones that go upside down.
It's just and it's not about having a mind that is blank for the time. So like you might only meditate for 5 or 10 minutes and your whole entire thought process might be, oh my God, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do this. Oh, come back to the breath, inhale, boom, boom, boom. So in that 5 to 10 minutes, you might only get 3 seconds of pure quietness, but that's okay.
A silence.
Yeah, it's still meditation. And so all you do is you come back, you look at it as it's like cleaning your teeth, but for your mind.
Yeah.
And if you can do that over time, then it just helps with certain situations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's a big thing. Like even if you don't have any issues with anything in life, if your life is it's still good to do.
Yeah, I struggle with meditation and I try all the time, and that quietening of the mind because I do have a noisy mind.
Yeah.
But I also find that, I know this sounds really abstract, but when I'm dancing, and you've seen me dance, it's
very good.
We've shared a dance floor here and there.
Well, mine wasn't really dancing. My dancing's kind of like my surfing. It's not surfing.
So, but what I noticed about myself is I don't like to dance with other people.
Yeah.
I dance by myself. I actually close my eyes and I have the biggest smile on my face. And I go into the music so deeply that I am just, my body is in that music, So I say sometimes it's like meditative to me.
That's what it is. It's
like
exactly what
I'm
it is.
only on one thing.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. I am just, I can't explain it to anybody else. I'm like, I don't know what it is. I just know that I'm the most peaceful.
Yeah.
I'm only in my body. I'm only and I'm happy.
But that's perfect.
And I've got the biggest smile on my face.
Yeah, and that's perfect. That's what it is for you. Everything's being shut out. I just think the one thing with meditation, it just you don't need to. Your mind doesn't need to be blank. It's not going to happen.
No.
And it's okay to have thoughts coming. And there's no good meditation. There's no bad meditation. It's just do it.
I think it's also like for me, it's about managing my mind. That's a big thing. Like after my marriage breakdown, it was about managing the mind, managing the thoughts that come into my mind, managing what I can choose to think about, what I can shut down and go, that's rubbish. No, this is my truth. So managing the mind, it sort of ties into that space for me too.
Definitely.
Okay, what's the best thing about aging?
The best thing about aging. Well, I think you're a lot more open to constructive criticism.
Yeah.
If somebody feedback if somebody says, when you do this, this and this, it makes me feel this way. Okay, cool. All right, what do I have to do to? All right, I'll stop doing that. Let me take that out. And that's how you want to be. You want to grow as a person.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the worst things you can do is be the same person you were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
No.
And like you are never going to be perfect, right? But whether you're in a relationship, whether you're not in a relationship, if you have somebody that you do something or the way you act or the way you might talk, if it affects them in a way and they bring it up and you're not willing to listen and say, okay, I'm sorry that's making you feel, it's not what it was meant.
Yeah, it's not my intention.
It's not my intention.
Yeah.
But hey, I don't want you to feel that way.
Yep.
Whereas I would never have done that. Like
Nah.
back pre-2005.
I'd be like, cool, off I go.
Yeah, see you later. Like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Whereas, and it's just about wanting to be a better person. And like, listen, some people are better than others. Like, my sister. My sister, could I ever be like my sister? No, she's an angel.
Yeah.
Like, her compassion and empathy for life and people is.
She's plugged into
She is.
to literally the earth.
She is, and like she's a carer, so she's similar to what you do.
Yeah.
And I remember she worked with some really, really messed up kids, and I'm like, I can't listen to these stories anymore. It's too depressing.
Yeah.
I go, sorry about that. That's my dog. I'm like, why do you do this?
Yeah.
And her response, and I'll never forget this, was, I just feel like I was put on the earth to help people. So am I ever going to get to that stage? No,
Well,
but I
you do
still,
help people.
I do, but not on the
Yeah.
level that she does, right?
Yeah.
And she, but I just think, like, getting back to what it's just, you want to keep growing.
The best version of yourself.
Yeah. And that's where having a partner
Yeah.
that can look at you and say, yeah, of course you got a truckload of flaws. But hey, if we can do this, this, and this,
Yeah.
and you're like, yeah, cool, let's work on that together.
Yeah.
Like, that's the beauty, right? That's
all we want.
That's what a good
All
that's what love
relationships.
is.
Yeah.
And because we can't. Of course we can look at somebody and break them down to death. But you just got to learn to be able to accept people for who they are, and if they're willing to change on things that do annoy you, it's like, cool. And that's a good thing.
I hear you. Preaching to the converted here. All right. What do you still dream about achieving or doing or seeing or experiencing?
For me, I think going through when I finished basketball and, I had invested a lot, GFC, best friend at the time, did the wrong thing by me and a few other people. Financially, it was crippling. It's scary because, you're at 44. All those years of the money that I'd earned now were gone. It was scary. It was definitely scary, but
Life changing.
it was
Scary.
Definitely
Yeah.
life changing and scary, but I've just gone blank.
That's all right.
What was your question again?
Like, what do you want to experience in your
that's
future
what,
self? Yeah.
So what that did, it made me really scared, right?
Yeah.
Really cautious on everything. And all you do then is you do whatever you have to do to make repayment. So it would be, I can't remember the exact figure, it was around about this. Let's say my expenses to the bank were 25 grand a month, and I'm bringing in 8 grand a month. And you do that for 3 years, your savings just, you get panicky and so for me now, it's like, I want to pay off my house. I want to get this done. I want to have no debt. So then when I do find the right person, I don't have to worry about, hey, let's go on a trip. Let's go and enjoy
You've got
life.
the freedom.
To do that. So for me, it was always, I would love to just have to wake up and not do anything. Do you know what I mean? It would just be to do things, and I have to worry, we've got to watch the money on this, got to watch the money on that.
Yep.
So that's for me, because I've been so paranoid.
I think that's relatable. For everybody can relate. I can relate as well. That when you have these big sort of life-changing moments, and you become, you just tighten the ship, lock it down, and become risk adverse. And for me, it was the same. I was like, okay, I just need to stabilize, and I need to manage my life, manage my money. I've got 2 little kids, and I'm navigating this single adult life family story now, and so it changes your mindset. And then all of a sudden, once you realize you're stable, I find it's then like, I can do these things now. I can dream a little bit bigger. I can. Because you're nervous. You're nervous.
For sure.
You don't want to go back there again, but you've got the tools. And like you said to me in your wisdom before, that you build that resilience. What fire you've walked through changes you and makes you the person you are. So you know that you're capable of coping again and again. So you can dream. And for me, that's that's what Fabulously Normal is. It's about, you don't just stop dreaming after 40 or having kids or businesses or marriage or relationships or whatever, you still push through, and life is long.
Yeah.
You know, it's longer than we probably realise.
Oh, like what you go, and depending on how
do everything, anything.
And it depends too, right? Because you need a bit of luck in life, like health wise. You can,
that's
like I don't drink, I exercise, I try to do it, but you don't know. I could hit by a car tomorrow. There's a million different things.
Yeah, that shark's going to get you.
Yep.
With your shitty surfing.
This idiot should not be in the water. Let's just finish him off. Is
he bored or like, what's going on there?
let's just fix him right now and then. And, you know, it's just, I just think with whatever we're talking about, whatever we go through, the resilience that you get.
Yeah.
And it's like if you go through a relationship and it breaks up, of course you still hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that will never go away. And I don't think you ever want that I would never want that to go away. I want to sit there and feel the pain.
Yep.
And then, but what that does, you get over a little bit quicker. Because you've been through there before. It's like, listen, yep, cool.
You got more tools
way more tools
to cope with stuff. I'm like, right, we just got to get the toolkit out, and you're patient and you're kind, and you're like, okay, I've just got to navigate this. I've been here. It sucks.
Yep.
But I know what I have to do, and I can do it. I'm not afraid. If I need to retreat, I retreat. If I need to go out and just see life still going on, you know, I'll do that too.
Yep.
I'm with you in that space. I think that's a gift of.
Well, and what you do too, when I was younger, I never sat back and thought afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, what did I get out of this relationship? Like, what were all the goodness?
I didn't reflect.
No reflection. But then you look and you're like, all right, I look at all the goodness.
Yeah.
But then you see a lot clearer too things that you know what, it's as good as it was, it really wasn't the right relationship for me.
Yeah, things you compromised on,
or definitely.
Your value system is just a little bit different, or where you're at in time and space is not matching, and
So you just look and say, that's okay. These are the good things. These are the bad things. That's sweet. Well, next time I'll make sure, even though I thought that was a little, I just went with it anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't stick to my.
Life is long. Life is long. You can find love any age.
You can.
Yeah, I believe it. And we're done. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah,
good seeing you.
That was so good,
Yeah.
good. Now I'm going to get you to do some yoga.
Yoga. We can do that.
You know what that is?